Hello, America. It's American Jedi Toneman here today to talk a little bit about Officer Nunez, talk a little bit about myself, talk a little bit about my beliefs. First of all, I would like to say to you young people out there who are unsure what they want to be when they grow up or when they graduate, the hardest thing to do is to say what you want to be and to say it out loud. So believe in yourself, love yourself. I remember when I was first asked what I wanted to be when I grew up. I was in the second grade, and I've always wanted wisdom. It's something I've always wanted. I went to a Catholic school in the hills of Montecito. I remember when I was asked, I knew I wanted to be great because to me the cross always stood for Tone Man. So when I was asked, I said the president, and the whole class laughed. And I remember after class I met with all the boys, and that was the first time I got in a fight with many. Now, as I got older, I eventually moved up in the corporate world, but I was unhappy. I wanted to help people, and I didn't feel like I was helping people. I felt like I was helping a company, but not helping myself. And I didn't feel really good about myself. I didn't feel good about bossing people, for profit. Don't get me wrong, I loved what I did. I loved my job. I enjoyed it immensely. I did. It was self rewarding to me. But I believe in education. Like I said, wisdom and knowledge. So um, I entered the nursing program. I wanted to help people. It was hard at the time. I owned four homes, and I didn't anticipate the stress that was going to come along with owning homes. I've always believed that the more you buy it, the more you put on your plate, then the more motivated you're going to be. But I didn't anticipate the stress that would come with it. Eventually, I failed, and eventually, I lost three of those homes. And I gave up my full time status at my job in order to go to that program, and I couldn't get it back unless I got back into management. But to me, that was like taking a step backwards, and I wanted to go forward. So I had to regroup. Eventually, I went back to school and majored in sociology. My first semester was tough. Um, I maybe bumped heads with some of the instructors. One of the classes was more about the inequality of men and women. The teacher would argue points like, the problems that women would have to face of the size of the ring. And I would be, well, what about the cost of the ring? This is something men have to deal with. The size of the ring, is it going to be enough? I mean, it's like you have to not buy, but show her with what you purchased for her because the other girls are going to see that. But this was dismissed. And I didn't get a good grade in that class. And I felt like, that I didn't get a good grade in that class because I debated a lot with the teacher. I felt like it was just me and her debating most of the time. Now I have no animosity towards this teacher. I respect. I really do. Then in the next semester, the teacher asked me why we wanted to be sociologists. Well, I wanted to be a sociologist because I've always wanted to be a Jedi. He thought I was joking, and he said, "How do you know that you have what it takes to be a Jedi?" And I told him, well, it's the binary opposition of the mind and the heart. The thing did not go well. So I eventually resolved the matter with the instructor. I have a lot of respect for that teacher. So during this time, I was also working for my company. My company was on the verge of closing. So the manager, who was the assistant at this store, was harassing people and harassing me. I don't take kindly to people harassing friends of mine or myself. So we exchanged words. Shortly after, I was suspended. And during that suspension, it was a weekend. Um, Obviously, I had a lot of stress going on because um, I was on academic probation, so I couldn't fail the second semester, and I needed my job. I mean, he said he didn't like me. He didn't like where I parked my motorcycle. Of course, the other guy, it was okay for him to park his motorcycle, but I guess, I wasn't, and, he didn't like the fact that I parked there. He didn't like me. Pretty much, I mean, he said he didn't like me. So I had called the hotline. So that day, I was out walking, trying to, clear my head. I didn't have my glasses on because, I wear glasses, contacts. So I was out walking. I saw two guys. Um, I said something to them, and they said something back, and then I said something that was kind of a joke, and they kind of looked at each other like, "Oh, this guy." So I kept on walking, and one of the guys had a skateboard, I guess, and he was riding, and I could hear the skateboard on me, so I turned around, and when I turned around, he jumped off the skateboard and threw the like, "What's up?" Like you got beef? So I pushed him. I pushed him and I pushed him. And then I saw fear in his eyes. And then I felt ashamed of myself because I was bigger than him, stronger than him. And I could tell in his eyes that he didn't want trouble. And I was ashamed of myself for the way I was reacting because I don't believe in picking on little people. I don't believe in being a bully. Unless somebody's a bully, then the bully in me will come out. So, you know, the street was a busy street, and all the cars were stopped, and I couldn't see, and I felt like everybody was looking at me, and so I kind of like was panicking. I wanted to escape, but there was nowhere to escape to. I was on foot, so it's like I wanted to jump in a car and just hide. So I kept walking, and then I saw a police officer, and I was like, thank God, because I was kind of having a little panic attack. So the police officer was in the third lane from the sidewalk, and the speed limit here is about 45, maybe 50 miles an hour. So I left the sidewalk, approached the police vehicle, and as I was getting closer, I was a little like happy because I have a relative who's a police officer. And as I got a little closer, it looked like this relative of mine. But then when I got closer, I realized it wasn't. But, I told him I needed help. I told him 3 times, I need help. And then each time he said, get out of here. Because this officer was busy on his phone. Only police officers are allowed to talk on their phone in cars. Not you other Americans in California. Only police officers. So after the third time, I was pretty upset because here I am in the middle of the street. The first thing this cop should be asking is like, what is this guy doing out here on the street? But apparently that phone call was more important. So I was upset that here I am, I need help, and he's ignoring me. So, of course, I did what a normal person wouldn't do because I'm upset. And so what do? The windows roll down. You know what? I'll get his attention. So I get the door handle and I shake it. And then all of a sudden, boom, then he hangs up on the phone. Then he gets out of his car. And then he runs. He runs right past me. He doesn't even see me. He runs. And I threw my hands up in the air like to the skies like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. So I get to the sidewalk. Mind you, Officer Nunez is about 6'3", about 233 pounds. I'm about 5'7", maybe 200 pounds. So my first thought was maybe I should just run or walk away. But I just threw my hands up, walked to the sidewalk. Here comes Officer Nunez running full speed towards me. Full speed. I'm like, great, this guy's going to knock me over. So I got low shoulder pad as he approached me. He tried to run me over. I got underneath, pushed him back, stood my ground. He pushed me. I gave him a push back like, you better just watch it or you're going to get hurt. So then Officer Nunez starts looking at me funny. Like, what is he looking at? So he starts backing up like he's seen a ghost or something. And the next thing you know, he's on the curb like he's going to fall. Now, mind you, the traffic was not going fast. But my brain immediately said, oh my God, he's going to fall. If he falls, he's going to die, and then I'm going to get blamed for this. So I gently wrapped my arms around Officer Nunez's shoulders so he could regain his balance. Then something in his eyes changed. And then he grabbed me by the shirt and just pulled me and headbutted me. I fell to the ground, and then I felt myself get hit by an object. And then the next thing I know, I was being handcuffed, dragged into a police car where my hands were behind my back, where then Officer Nunez proceeded to beat me in my ribs. And the next thing I knew, I blacked out. But then I woke up again and I was back on the sidewalk. I couldn't understand what was going on. And I remember getting up and him saying, sit down. But at this point, I was just pissed. So then I went out again. And then I woke up in the hospital and they were like putting something on my nose. And I looked and I saw the nurses and I said, oh, nurses, I got respect for nurses. And then I saw Officer Nunez. And so as soon as I saw Officer Nunez, I started just yelling. Oh, I was pissed. Pissed. So eventually Officer Nunez took me into another room, and just was going, yeah, giving me the finger, And so other cops came. They were there at the hospital. And I told Officer Nunez, the reason why you became a cop is because you've been a wussy, and you're still a wussy, and you're always going to be a wussy. That's why you became a cop, you big wussy. And the other cops just laughed at him. Maybe because it was the truth. Because Officer Nunez, you are a wussy. And you know that. But you want to know what Officer Nunez's story was when we went to court? You want to know what kind of liar he is? Well, hopefully you'll tune in next time and I'll let you know about it. But thank you very much for listening to what I had to say. Toneman, thank you.